It's time for a new generation of NFL stars to be born. It's time for every fan base to get hope and try to win the 2026 Super Bowl. It all starts now with the 2026 NFL Draft. For the breakdown and best bets, stay tuned. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of the D-Gen Docs, a special D-Gen Docs edition when we're both actually here. That is right, folks. You are not seeing things on your screen. We have brought Professor Locks out of retirement. I think congratulations.
Does this thing work?
Yes, we're dusting off that microphone. Welcome, new dad, to the show. Derek Bennett, aka Professor Locks. How you doing tonight, brother?
Yeah, I had to dust off the microphone. My paternity leave evidently is done.
Yes.
Whatever that means. But yeah, I'm glad to be back on with you, brother, and we're talking draft in this one.
Look,
little special episode.
We usually drag Derek off the retirement bench in the summer while he's taking his paid leave. Because he is the draft king around here, really. He's the expert. He's the one who's been smashing these bets the past couple of years. So you don't want just my picks, so I had to bring Derek out for our special 2026 NFL Round 1 Best Bets episode here. Obviously, the NFL Draft kicking off Thursday. A little bit of show structure at the top, as we typically like to do. Tell you what this is going to be here. One, we're going to break down a major trade, definitely to one of our teams here that just happened last night. We'll talk some of the major free agency moves to kind of get everybody in the NFL mood. I know, I've been focused on the UFL. Derek's been focused on how the hell to, keep a baby alive.
Exactly.
And so to get us back into the NFL spirit, there's been some things happening. We'll do a quick recap on some of the biggest moves, and then we'll get into these best bets, these NFL draft bets that, some plus money plays that we're seeing here. Always a fun time because it's not only what we think will happen or what should happen. You also got to handicap what these owners are going to do. I mean, Seems like the Cleveland Browns basically a crapshoot. So makes it for a fun show.
No doubt.
So I alluded to it, but let's go ahead and talk off the top here.
Big trade last night.
Last night, massive trade.
Massive
Dexter Lawrence traded to the Cincinnati Bengals. He's going to be a Bengal, and it has been confirmed that it was for the number 10 pick straight up. Obviously, a bunch of money considerations there. Let's get your takeaway first, and then I'll go on my typical Giants rant.
Yeah, I mean, and I might be stealing a little bit of your thunder here, but I mean, Dexter Lawrence is going to be what, 30? Going
29.
into this,
He'll be 29 this next year. Yeah.
So basically, 30-year-old guy. I mean,
Right.
He's an All-Pro the majority of his career until probably within the last year and a half. He's kind of started to show that age a little bit. I just don't understand this from a Bengals perspective. I mean, I get it. Your defense is historically bad and has been for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and that's the side of the ball that you need some help. But at the same time, you just had a perennial All-Pro in Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to pay him.
Yep.
So we just swap out defensive linemen.
Yeah.
And expect there to be much of a difference. I don't understand it.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, they brought in Boye Mafe, and they brought in a couple pieces on the defensive side with Dexter Lawrence. But, I mean, their defense has been absolutely atrocious. The Trey Hendrickson handling and all that situations. I think they lost not only Hendrickson, but another guy there. One of their other edge rushers is gone as well. So obviously, look, I'm a Giants fan. That is no secret. But I love Dexter Lawrence, right? I thought he was one of my favorite players for the Giants the past 5 years. Yeah. But it's been very clear since his elbow injury in 2024, he's not been the same player. And, back half of 2024, okay, the elbow injury, we can blame it on that. And then last season, I mean, are you telling me the injury is still still lingering? That's
Right.
pretty unusual. That's kind of a concern if that's the issue. It really just looked like a lack of effort.
Right.
And, there was weight concerns, there was motivation. And, I want to talk about because some people look, Dexter Lawrence is a great player. I think he can continue to be a good player.
Hmm.
But when you talk about a guy in the back half of his career, that should not be a controversial take. He's going to be in the back half of his career. And the money consideration that he's asking for, I love this for the Giants. Like, it was clear he was not going to get back to that level of elite with
No.
the New York Giants. He was done with the organization. So if he does that with the Bengals, okay, there's opportunity for this to potentially be a win-win. But given the Giants situation right now, to get a top 10 pick, I think is an amazing, amazing haul. Look, there's a tweet here from Warren Sharp that I'm going to bring up here that was talking about it's basically going through, hey, like Dexter Lawrence, these are the numbers, and I'll kind of scroll through here. Essentially, what they're saying is he played against some really good offensive lines in the Cowboys and the Eagles. Now he's going to AFC North, where there's not maybe as good of interior offensive lines. And in a down year, this is what he did, blah, 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 blah. Well, I want to focus on these numbers because all of these numbers are surrounded around the pass defense. Talking
Yep.
how the Giants' pass defense was better when he was on the field and worse when he was off the field. Guys, as good as that is, like, he's a defensive tackle. He's a nose tackle.
Yeah.
That you need to stop the run first. Like, just
Yep.
wouldn't you think there should be some rushing defense stats here? Like, it was clear he was getting pushed around like the entire Giants defense did last year. He's supposed to be your clog in the middle. So I understand that's great if he can do some pass, but you're telling me now what now he's becoming a one-dimensional guy at a nose tackle?
Yep.
Like, I don't know, man. Again, I loved Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy. He was great. He was fun for the team. But I think that kind of highlights like
Well,
he was something was wrong last
yeah.
year.
Yeah, that I mean, and going back to the passing stats, like or pass defense stats, the New York Giants, and I'm not necessarily breaking news to you, but the New York Giants pass defense hasn't been real good over the last couple years.
Yeah.
And then you're expecting him to save the Bengals pass defense.
Yeah, right.
Like, I mean, it's even worse. So,
Yeah.
and you lose Cam Taylor Britt in the offseason as well. So, like, I don't know what the Bengals are necessarily thinking. Like you said, I do think that the Giants ended up getting a nice piece for sure in the top 10 going
Yeah,
into
I
the
mean,
draft.
he went from a bad. Well, I mean, Giants' defensive line isn't even really bad, but he went from one bad defense to another, and now he's in the back half of his career, and you gave up a top 10 pick. I mean, hey, there is a chance this could be a win-win for
Hey,
both teams.
if
That's
if the Bengals continue to suck, I'm okay with it.
yeah, right. You're not crying over any spilled milk there. But that was the biggest news out of last night. Now going to the off season here, I'll kind of throw a couple at you, and then I'll ask for your kind of any major takeaways here.
Yeah.
We'll start with the quarterbacks. So two big ones, I guess three big ones we'll say, and maybe big is
Yeah.
too big of a term, but hey, it's the only news we got. Kyler Murray going to the Minnesota Vikings on a one-year deal. Malik Willis going to the Miami Dolphins on a 3-year, $45 million deal.
Yep.
And then Tua Tagovailoa going to the Falcons. That's the big quarterback news.
And Geno going back to the Jets.
You're right. Probably actually that might be the biggest one. So yeah, thank you for getting me there. So out of those four, what are some general takeaways you got? Anything crazy for these quarterbacks here?
Yeah, one, I feel bad for Malik Willis going down there to the Dolphins.
They traded everybody else away.
They've traded everybody else away. Tyreek Hill with that knee injury that he had last year, like whether he's going to be on the roster or not. I mean,
yeah, I think they haven't made a decision on him, right? Everyone's saying
right. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Hafley knows Malik Willis very well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're setting him up for great success down
you're
there
not.
in Miami. Yeah, that's probably the worst offensive roster in the league at this point.
Currently, yeah.
But Kyler Murray, that one's an interesting one to me. I mean, we know what Kevin O'Connell can do.
Right.
And we know what Kyler Murray can be. Is it going to be a good mix? And will Kyler stay away from Call of Duty and Fortnite?
Is he even gonna be
Fortnite,
the
yeah.
starter? I mean, JJ McCarthy. I don't like. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be the interesting one because Kyler Murray has all the talent in the world, and he's definitely has more talent now in Minnesota compared to his entire career in Arizona.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if he ends up winning that job, this 1 year deal could turn into big time money for him
That's true.
if he stays off of Fortnite or whatever game he
Yeah.
plays. But the Kyler Murray saga in Arizona was always kind of exactly that. It was a saga. It was up and down the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, Kyler Murray's the one that has the potential to maybe the biggest ceiling, I would
Yeah.
say. But, Willis, again, he
Although
could.
if Tua is not completely brain dead
Nah,
when he
I'm
moves
out.
up to Atlanta,
Yeah.
they got some talent down there too.
They do. They do. Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, obviously. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm out on Tua. I'm out on Gino. Malik Willis, I'm not really out on, but what
Yeah,
is he working with? And he's only played like 6 games in the last couple of years.
right.
Like, I think he worked good in that Packers system
Sure.
where they would have run the ball and things. And we'll see if the Dolphins keep Devon A-Chain, or it sounds like he's on the trading block as well. But I think Kyler Murray, like you mentioned, may have the highest ceiling. Now, he does have to beat out J.J. McCarthy. I'm curious to see what Vikings fans feel like. Like, who do they actually
Yeah.
want to win the job? Do you want to, I mean, they were very supportive of J.J. and his development and everything. Do you want to keep supporting the kid and potentially have a franchise quarterback? Or do you want to win? And Kyler Murray maybe gives you a better chance to do that. So,
Yeah.
curious how Skull fans actually think on that one. All right, a couple other big ones I just want to hit on here. DJ Moore going to the Bills is a pretty big one for a second rounder.
Sure.
Chiefs trading Chiefs trading away Trent
Away.
McDuffie, and then to the Rams, and the Rams also picking up
Luke Watson.
Jalen Watson, which is a big thing there. Your Steelers trading for wide receiver Michael Pittman. How about you talk a little bit there? What was the thoughts around them getting Pittman? Obviously, DK and Pittman now highlighting that wide receiver room.
Yeah, thank God they actually went out and got a wide receiver 2 for their
Legitimate.
offense. It's been, 4 or 5 years that Steelers fans have been wanting and hoping and wishing for a wide receiver 1 and 2 combination. They finally have it.
Yeah.
The interesting part is they're fairly similar guys. They're big-bodied, 6'4", 230-pound wide
Yeah.
receivers.
They're massive.
It'll be interesting to see if they still get a wide receiver early in this draft that is, the guy that I don't really like in Calvin Austin. But
Yeah.
with a solid 1-2, you need that smaller, quicker in and out kind of guy in an offense, and that's where they're still missing that piece, but
Right.
they have a solid 1-2 punch finally.
Yeah, Roman Wilson is the guy slotted in there right now per the depth charts, right? We'll see how that plays out. That'll be interesting to talk about. Well, we're going to talk about the Steelers here in a little bit because their chalk is to take a wide receiver in the first round. I don't know if I agree with that, but we'll kind of talk about that here going forward. Any other ones that you wanted to quickly talk about from our list here? Or should we just move into the draft bets?
Well, let me just take a quick look just to highlight your Roman Wilson point. He has 12 catches in 2 seasons, so let's not put too much hype on that one.
Yeah, you also don't like him because he's a Michigan man, but hey.
Yeah, well, anyways, we'll stay off that part. But I think probably the biggest surprise to me
Okay.
was Mr. 1000, Mike Evans,
That is a massive.
leaving
Yeah.
Tampa Bay and
Yeah.
heading out to the Bay. Like,
3-year deal.
it's going to be so strange not seeing him with his skull and crossbones or whatever it is on the side of his helmet.
Jolly
this
Roger.
fall.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is, no, they also picked up Christian Kirk as
Yeah.
well. 49ers, man, it's kind of weird. Like, you got Ricky Pearsall. What's Brandon Ayuk doing? Is he playing? Juwan
Right.
Jennings. Like, it got kind of a lot of, like, older guys, and they're a little bit, like, I mean, not chalky, but there's a good chance they might take a wide receiver in the draft. Like, it's interesting. No one really knows what the hell's going on over there in San Francisco.
Sure.
Chiefs also getting Kenneth Walker is worth mentioning.
Yeah.
There's a couple other ones we might mention throughout, but those were the biggest highlights, biggest kind of Montgomery going to the Texans, things like that.
We'll cover the rest of them in our team previews and division
Yes,
previews
we
come
will.
this summer.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, those were some notable things that have
yeah.
happened since we
Some
last spoke.
some things you should definitely know before heading into the 2026 NFL Draft, which again starts Thursday night,
Yeah.
the 23rd. There in beautiful downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where Derek and I not only met but spent many a drunken nights there. Looks a little bit cleaner from this light. I don't know. Is this AI? It might be an AI image, but
It has to be an AI image.
I mean,
The
it
lawn
is.
is definitely not that clean.
Yeah, right. Exactly. This is similar, kind of what this looks like here. But yeah, beautiful Pittsburgh there for the 2026 NFL Draft. And yeah, let's talk about some of our round one bets as I show off. If you've noticed, the thumbnails are getting is suddenly nicer for this episode as opposed to my UFL ones because I can't get this guy to work in the off season. So now he comes back and suddenly the thumbnails start looking a little bit nicer. But my friend, I will let you start off here. Why don't you
Yeah.
give out your first 2026 NFL draft bet?
Yeah, so let me start. Let's start with pick number 3. I mean, it's about a given that number 1 is Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
Number 2 has basically come down to either David Bailey or Arvell Reese
Right.
going to the Jets.
Right.
I think that they end up taking David Bailey, and sitting there at number 3 is the Arizona Cardinals, and they can take about anybody that they want,
Yeah.
because they have so many holes on that roster,
No,
and I
yeah.
think the guy with the highest ceiling left is, in my opinion, Arvell Reese. I mean, the dude is an absolute freak show
Yeah.
when it comes to being a linebacker and an edge rusher. I mean, he basically had one season as a starter at Ohio State and lit it up from game one, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a freak show. He barely even practiced pass rush moves throughout the last season. I think he had like 8 sacks. So
Yeah.
I do think Arvell Reese ends up going in that number 3 spot at plus 165. And as far as the Cardinals go, they may be wanting to move back because they had so many holes, and
Right.
that number 3 pick, I mean, just holds so much weight. Even if somebody wants to trade up into that spot, I think Arvell Reese is still the pick. So, yeah, give me Arvell Reese at plus 165 being the 3rd pick.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and I should mention, I kind of mentioned it, but again, NFL draft is crazy, right? So buyer beware, because not only are you betting on what you think should happen, really you're betting on like what will these GMs and owners do, which we've seen over the years, like not always the most logical line of thinking, right? So you got to be a little bit careful, nothing. I wouldn't be slamming.
Jerry Jones want to trade the 12th and the
Right.
20th pick to move up and get the freak show.
Exactly. I mean, there we've talked about this. There is no such thing as a lock in sports betting,
Right.
but definitely in the NFL draft. Maybe the Mendoza that you can't make any money off of.
You'd be losing on your dollar.
There is no locks here, but I do think that is a very interesting one here because I was looking at it with the number 3 pick. It seems like Mendoza won, and then both the Jets and the Cardinals are going to be taking a pass rusher, right? Just given positional value and kind of the value of that position. Right. And it seems like Cardinals are just going to get whatever guy the Jets don't pick.
Right.
So I think this is a nice way to attack the market and probably the juiciest price you can get. Instead of the Jets taking Bailey, right, at 2, I think that's a little bit less of a price. I think because it is kind of a little bit set that Jets are going to get their pick of pass rusher, and then the Cardinals are just going to get the other guy, who I think both of them are really good prospects. So I do like that play there. All right, let's. We'll just go ahead and I'll address the Giants' position here because we now have 2 top 10 picks in the draft. The Giants obviously they had the 5 pick, and now they're getting pick number 10 from the Bengals. So I'm gonna give out 2 plays here: the 5 pick and the 10 pick, assuming it's the Giants that do pick them. Most of these are going to be over from DraftKings, where I'm giving out. I've got 1 from ScoreBet, but everything else is DraftKings for me. But Caleb Downs at pick number 5 at plus 400. Jordan Tyson at pick number 10 at plus 400. And then Caleb Downs under, so 9.5 draft position at -140. So here's kind of where I'm going with this, right? Obviously, I'm telling them all now because they're correlated and they all kind of revolve around the Giants. So I think one, nobody really knows what the Giants are going to do. We've seen it all off season. As soon as Dable and really Kevin Abrams in the front office left, no one really knows what the Giants are doing. Like Harbaugh has came in and like everything is kind of closed off to the media as far as leaks and things like that. There was a lot of reports saying there's no way Dexter Lawrence gets traded. There's not even taking trade calls, blah, blah, blah. Boom. Comes out and does that, right? There's just been multiple areas with the offensive coordinator, defense coordinator stuff. Like, no one really knows what's going on. Now, there's a lot of, you talked about Arvell Reese, there's a lot of really highly talented Ohio State defensive players. Sonny Sykes, Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs.
Yep.
Personally, I think Caleb Downs is the best defensive player in this draft by far. Now, I know the argument's going to be positional value of the safety and where does that go. But I think when you look at John Harbaugh and some of those defenses he's had, obviously Ed Reed, arguably the best safety in the NFL history. Yep. And then Kyle Hamilton, a guy who, like Caleb Downs, I'm not going to say he is Kyle Hamilton yet because we need to see it at the NFL level. But, dude, this guy just jumps off the tape, man. Yeah. I really think that if you're watching the Ohio State defense, which was arguably the best defense in the league last college football season, Caleb Downs just jumps off the page, man. He makes so many plays, whether it's around the line of scrimmage. He fills so many holes. The Giants secondary, like we talked about the pass defense, it's a problem. And if you want to get someone who can kind of like, he's not going to answer every single problem they have, but he is going to be such an impact player for a defense. I think John Harbaugh is going to understand that. And I also like the price. Some of it is the price of 4-1. So a little bit of a long shot. I personally think with obviously the under 9.5 play, I don't think he's going to be there at 10. I think someone is going to see this dude and realize how good of a player he could be, whether it's Washington Commanders who have a ton of holes on their defense or someone else in that top 10, like past that kind of 5 to 9 pick. There is thoughts that maybe the Giants take him at 10, which I think you may be talking about, which I don't hate. But I think the problem is I don't think he's going to be there at 10. So I think the Giants take him at 5. And then Jordan Tyson is the other guy who gave it at 10. They went to his workout. Joe Shane was there on Tuesday in Arizona. They need a wide receiver too. I like the Darnell Mooney trade, Darius Slayton. They're more of a wide receiver 3 in my eyes. Neighbors coming back from that ACL plus injury. Is he going to be ready in time? You need to develop Jackson Dart. You got to give him some weapons. I think, Isaiah Likely is a nice piece, but you need an actual wide receiver too. I think Jordan Tyson's going to be the best wide receiver out of this draft class. I understand some of the injury stuff. The knee injury was back in his freshman season is the biggest thing. The other stuff's a little bit more fluky. I'm not super concerned. So that's how I think the Giants should. Again, what I think they should do. I think Harbaugh understands that Caleb Downs is one of those players that is a can't miss. But curious because it sounds like you got some thoughts on pick number 10. So what do you got here?
Yeah, between that 5 and 10 spot, going back to just the two Giants picks, you got the Cleveland Browns, Commanders, Saints, and Chiefs.
Yeah.
The Browns have to go offensive linemen. In my opinion, they lost 4 of their 5 offensive linemen this offseason.
They should.
They have to go O-line. They do. It's either that or they're trading down because they just need so much help on the offensive line.
Yeah.
The Commanders, in my opinion, are probably going to go wide receiver. If Tate is there, if Tyson's there, if Lemon's there, I think they take one of those 3, whichever they feel the best of those 3. Saints probably get the other one, but the Saints also need some help in the back end. They need some pass rush help as well. And then the Chiefs are kind of in the same boat there. They need some pass rush help. They need a wide receiver. And that's where, I think as a whole, you could see, or I could see the Commanders taking Downs or even Sonny Styles there. But as a whole, it seems like a bunch of wide receiver, offensive line, like defensive end needs in those spots in between. So I do somewhat agree with you with that 5 pick. I think it comes down to one of 3 Ohio State guys, Carnell Tate and unless they really like Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson. But
Yeah,
with the injury risks, I don't necessarily know if you want to do that
that's
with
there.
Malik Neighbors coming off of an injury, Sonny Styles, or Caleb Downs.
Yeah,
So with Harbaugh's history, I would think they'd go defense with the fifth pick and then take whatever wide receiver or double up
yeah.
with defense with that second one. So I think they end up going Sonny Styles at pick number 5, just because they need some linebacking help as a whole, and what better guy to chase around Jaden Daniels for the next 10 years than Sonny Styles, who runs a 3.38. I mean, the dude flies around and is a
Right.
converted
Three
safety.
three eight. What?
40.
He ran a 4.38.
Or, yeah, that's what it said.
I was
Yeah.
like, what the? A
Four,
3.38.
4.38. I
Who
mean,
is
he was
this
sub
guy?
4.4 as a
Yeah,
linebacker. I mean, he's a converted
that is
safety.
very impressive. That
He's
is
he's a
incredible.
converted safety playing linebacker at 6'5" and jumps out of the gym. So, I mean,
He
he's a
is the
freak.
chalk. He
He
is
is
the
a
chalk
freak
to go
show.
to the
He is the
Giants
chalk. I do
at
think
5.
they end up taking Sonny Styles. I can see them taking Caleb Downs because he just fills up so much on the back end.
Yeah.
Or I could potentially see them trying to get a wide receiver 2 with Malik Neighbors, especially with him coming off of an injury. But I do think they go defense with 5, and then can either see them following up with one of those two guys. I think Carnell Tate is kind of the wide receiver 1 at this point.
Yeah.
If he's there, I think they'd take him. I don't think he'll be there though.
No, I
So
don't think so.
basically, who's left? So I at pick 10, I took 3 guys. I have Caleb Downs at plus 280,
Okay.
Sonny Styles at 10-1,
Okay.
and then Mekhi Lemon at 16-1. All guys that I could see going there. I mean,
Any of those
like
guys.
like I said, I think as a whole, I don't mind your Jordan Tyson pick. I just don't know if they necessarily want to double up with an injury risk there with Malik
True.
Neighbors coming off of an injury.
Yeah, and I mean it's hard to argue because it's hard to be confident in what the Giants are going to do because they really have been keeping things very close to the vest.
Yep.
I'm a little bit more of like this is what I want them to do.
Yeah.
So this is a
If,
little
if,
bit.
if it was me, I'd want them to take Styles and Downs and just figure out what they're doing on
wouldn't hate
defense.
it.
But you got a second year quarterback that needs some help. So
I'm a little bit hesitant on the Styles, Sonny Styles, man. I don't know the whole converted to linebacker thing. Like it's kind of reminding me of Isaiah Simmons, which didn't really pan out in the NFL.
he's played linebacker for 2 years in college though. Simmons
Yeah, that's
didn't.
true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I really like Downs, so maybe I'm just being biased there. I'll be
No,
honest.
I think they get Downs in 5 or 10, or at
Yeah.
least for your sake, I hope so.
Yeah.
Because he's a
No.
star.
If we end up with both, look, I'm not gonna be. There's a lot of these guys. I think that I don't think any of them are gonna be a miss in the top 10. So it's a little bit easier to be drafted in the top 10. So
Yeah.
All right. Why I will go next here. Let's go a guy who's pretty controversial. Kenyon Sadiq
Ooh,
over
okay.
15.5 draft position at plus 115 over at DraftKings. So I think he's going to slide here. One, the tight end position is not really a positional value. We've seen obviously McBride, who was I think a second rounder, and then Brock Bowers. Yes, they were smashed. I don't see Kenyon Sadiq in that level at all. I mean, I think there's a chance he drops out of the first round. Now, he's the biggest concern is Tampa Bay at 15. That's the one where he has the first real opportunity to go. But
I would say the Chiefs at 9 would also be an opportunity there.
that would be spicy. That would be spicy. I think there's a chance, but I do think that they go one of these top 3 wide receivers. Or
Another guy that runs sub 4.4, and you got Kelsey at 36.
That's true. I don't know, man. I'm not a big Kenyon Sadiq guy. Like I think that
I'm with you.
in this college football playoff, he kind of was a no-show.
Yep.
I understand that Oregon was beating a lot of teams, and he has some good ability. But I think, yes, sure, we can say the Chiefs at 9. I think that's a little cute. Tampa Bay at 15, they brought back Kate Otten. I think like Carolina at 18 is really when he has a realistic chance to start going. So I just think the number, like I think, all right, if yes, kind of a little bit of a dart throw in Kansas City, but the real chance is basically we're saying will Tampa Bay take him at 15. They just had Levante David retire. You got a really aging defense. They traded away Mike Evans. Like, I think there's better positions that they can go there. So Kenyon Sadiq, I just think he slips a little bit. I think there's a chance he goes either late first round or even the second round. He's one of those guys that's going to test like an absolute athletic freak, but what his blocking is a little bit of a concern. Is he more of a kind of a wide receiver than tight end? And there's some really good wide receivers in this draft. So if you're trying to take him for the pass game ability, why not just take an elite wide receiver? Yeah. Is kind of my line of thinking there. So I'm going to go Kenyon Sadiq over 15.5 at plus 115 over at DraftKings. What do you got?
Yeah, I don't mind that one. Like I said, I think as a whole, there's a couple teams you got to watch out for. But if we're playing the odds here, I do think, to your point, Chiefs and the Bucs both have some other holes that they should fill before tight end. Mm-hmm. My next one, at the 18th pick, we got the Minnesota Vikings currently, and they just had probably a guy that has been a staple in their organization released this offseason in Harrison Smith. I mean, he hasn't necessarily said that he's retiring, but everybody basically expects him to. And after his releasing, they're not going to bring him back. So I think whether it's Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, who plays a very similar style to Harrison Smith, or the kid out of Toledo, McNeil Warren, I think both of those guys are in play here. So I'm going to say the Minnesota Vikings first position selected is safety. So I don't know if it's going to be Thieneman or McNeil Warren, but I think it's going to be one of those two. So give me safety going to the Vikings.
Yeah, and going off of that, I'm going to have a play there. I think I agree. I think they definitely need a safety, and I think if we can get that at plus money, I think that's actually pretty nice. Similar pick here.
Yeah, odds-wise, it was at plus 160.
Yeah, plus 160 there. Give me over 6.5 defensive backs drafted in the first round at minus 120 over on Score Bet. Okay. It sounds like a lot, but this is kind of a weak class overall with a lot of safety and cornerback depth. Mm-hmm. This is a very deep cornerback and safety class. They are positions of need. NFL is a passing league, and you got to figure out a way to stop some of these guys, right? So I like this. I think we get there through 3 safeties. You mentioned, look, Caleb Downs, we've been talking about. He's definitely getting there. Thieneman and the Toledo safety, McNeil Warren, sound like they are kind of getting close to being locks in the first round. So we have 3 safeties, and then that just means, you have A.J. Halsey, who's kind of unlikely to be a first round, but he could maybe sneak in there. But I think we get the 4 cornerbacks. Delane and McCoy, I think, are absolute locks. And then there's guys like Terrell from Clemson, obviously A.J. Terrell's brother, Colton Hood from Tennessee, Chris Johnson from San Diego State is starting to get some love. You have Keontae Scott, who made some insane plays there in Miami. So, I just think that this is a very deep defensive back class and an overall weak class. So I think that we see at least 7 guys get drafted in the first round. We've seen how important, secondaries are, right? You look at the Super Bowl last year, Seahawks had one of the best secondaries in the league, translated to a Super Bowl. Patriots had a pretty damn good secondary as well, and that led them to being the AFC representative there. So I think that this is a deep class. People love their cornerbacks. You need to cover these guys, and then we've got some pretty elite safety prospects, and that we typically don't see this many safeties getting drafted. So I think this is a good opportunity to take advantage of that market there.
For sure.
All right, what's next on your slate there?
Yeah, your boy Harbaugh, his brother's still in LA, right?
That is true. Yep.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh likes to pound the rock over and over and over again. Last year, they took Amarian Hampton in the first round. The year before that, they took Joe Alt in the first round. Last year, their offensive line, obviously Slater and Alt were out the vast majority of the year, if not the whole year. Having those 2 guys back, massive improvement to your offensive line. But I do think that they double down even after bringing in Tyler Biotish and Cole Strange in free agency. I do think the LA Chargers go offensive linemen with their first pick. There's offensive line depth out the wazoo in the first round, and really all throughout this draft. And so I do think that the Chargers are going to kind of stick to their guns and take an O lineman out of the gate at plus 150.
Yeah, man, you hit on it, but like it seems like everybody's first position drafted chalk is offensive lineman, but there's a lot of really good linemen. There's a lot of interior, a lot of offensive tackles that
They
are being
definitely need
talked about.
some defensive line help as well, but I think Jim Harbaugh's an offensive guy,
He is.
and he
Yep.
likes to run the ball, and he wants to protect Goldilocks of Justin Herbert, the magnificent guy that he is. Whatever hype he
Arvell.
wants to give out
Yeah.
today, we'll just roll with that.
Yeah, the best quarterback in the world, according to Jim Harbaugh there.
Yeah.
All right, I got a couple more here. Head-to-head player, which is a fun.
Ooh,
Going to the
fun
defensive
market.
tackles. Caden McDonald versus Peter Woods. Give me Peter Woods at plus 120.
Okay.
Look, I do think both these guys are good players. I want
Yeah.
the Giants. I mean, partially maybe this is I want McDonald to slip into the second round so the Giants can get him. But I think there's a difference between. Seems like Caden McDonald is the consensus best run-stopping defensive tackle on the board.
Yeah.
But he doesn't bring
Yeah.
that same level of pass rush ability
Correct.
that the NFL seems to value. I mean, we just saw it with Dexter Lawrence, right? Dexter Lawrence seems like he's a better pass rusher than run stopper in the past couple of years. Worth top 10 pick. Peter Woods is one of those guys who, insane prospect coming out of, 5-star coming out of high school. Went to Clemson. They have a pretty dirty defensive line in general. They've produced guys like Brian Breezy. They've kind of been sending guys to the league. Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, things like that,
Yep.
right? I just think this is the NFL valuing the pass rush ability of a defensive tackle more than a run stopper. It's a little bit more of like the sexiness. Is it the better pick? I'm not quite sure. I think you could argue McDonald's the better player overall, but I think these guys are really close, and I think the fact that Peter Woods brings that pass rush ability that McDonald doesn't, I think that's going to get him selected by one of these teams in the late 20s there. So give me Peter Woods at the plus 120. I thought the price was pretty nice given that pass rush ability. What do you got next here?
Yeah, I got one more for you. And I'll bring it back to the Steelers.
There we go. The hosts.
Yeah, I think as a whole, it'll be interesting to see what the Steelers do in round one. Obviously, the draft is in Pittsburgh. I do think that they'll want to make somewhat of a splash pick. I don't think that they're going to be picking at 23, where they're currently slotted. They have, I think, 3 third-round picks. Obviously, they still have a second-round pick. I wouldn't be surprised if they move up and take a guy that they're wanting instead of just holding back and taking whoever's left of all of those offensive tackles and couple guards there that are probably going to be taken in the first round. But they're going to take an offensive lineman. I think as a whole, you lose a guy like Sam Alu at left guard, you don't fill it.
Nope.
You also have Broderick Jones, who had season-ending neck surgery at left tackle. Dylan Cooks did pretty well at left tackle to finish the year, but you have a lot of questions on that left side of the line.
Yeah, necks are scary. Neck injuries are scary in football.
Exactly, especially in the trenches. So I do think they go O-line. I've, for whatever, been seeing a lot of defensive line mocks out there. I don't see that happening necessarily. I do think they go with O-line because, like I said, their left guard is now, I think, in Arizona or somewhere else. I can't remember. And they didn't fill it. So I think that's probably the easiest option there. I think they try to move up and take Vega from Penn State right there in front of the Baltimore Ravens, if I were to guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. That's definitely a logical pick there. Definitely don't agree with the wide receiver being the chalk. So I think they definitely go trenches one way or the other. So plus 190 there.
They don't take wide receivers in the first round. They pick them up in the second and third.
Yeah, why would you if you can just make them, all pros in the later rounds? So last real one I'll give out, and I say real. Last one that's more realistic, I should say. Gerard McCoy, under 17.5 draft position, minus 120. He was able to, he didn't play all last year with the ACL injury because he injured it late in 2024. Missed the entire season, right? And it was kind of like no reason for him to really try to push hard to come back. But he was able to run and work out for these teams, and he put up really good numbers and looks really good. Look, I just think, talked about it already, kind of with the defensive backs position. cornerback is a premium position. Overall, it's not the strongest draft class. I think people understand that you really, if you can hit on a cornerback, this is the guy who I think whether it's I'm going to talk about in a second who goes first, whether it's Delane or it's McCoy. I think that's a little bit much more debatable. But the fact that 17 teams, you got to have a quarterbacks in there. I think they're going to be cornerbacks aplenty. So I think him under that 17.5 minus 120, I think is a very nice price. All right. Those are the realistic ones. I'm going to give out a couple dart throws because I think draft season breeds well to some dart throws here. So I'm just going to rattle them off really quick as we round out. First one has to do what I just talked about. First cornerback selected, Gerard McCoy. Look, Gerard McCoy was the best cornerback coming out of the 2024 season. He has the best tape and he has the most talent. Now, it's the ACL injury. We know it's not like 30 years ago where ACLs are more career threatening and things like that.
Right.
It's been over a year since that injury. So, you would expect a guy coming in that second year to look a little bit better and more back to their normal production. I think, yes, there's obvious concerns, and that's what may scare some teams off. But I think it's pretty easy for a team to fall in love with McCoy and just take him ahead of Delane. I think they're both going to be good players, but ultimately, McCoy was the best cornerback coming into the 2025 season. The injury obviously changes some things, but I don't think that, I think some team's going to be able to watch the tape of him in 2024, fall in love, and figure out, hey, man, I think we really need to go get this guy. So at plus 750 for him to be the first cornerback drafted, I just think again, these are dart throws, more of I could see this happening, so I want to have a little bit of action on it there. The next one you'll have a little bit to talk about. Now, you laid out a great case why the Steelers should go offensive line. I'm going to throw out their defensive line edge at plus 650. And the reason for this, they're in the 20s there. I think that, we look at they definitely have some offensive line concerns. But you look at their defensive line, you have TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, the edge position I think is covered. But defensive tackle, they went last year with Kelvin Harmon. But really, it's the other two guys, Keanu Benton and Cam Hayward, that I'm kind of focusing on.
Derek Harmon.
What did I say?
Kelvin Harmon. I don't know.
I don't
who just created there, but
yeah. I don't know who that is. But yes, thank you. That's why you're here, Derek Harmon. I think that Keanu Benton is not anyone to really write home about, and Cam Hayward's getting up there in age.
Good.
So we looked at the Steelers' defensive line, their rush numbers is really the concern, right? Now Harmon did help that when he was on the field, but they were still giving up over 4.3 yards of rush last season. You got Derrick Henry there. You got some other running backs. The Browns won't try and want to run the ball, right? So I just think that at plus 650, I think they go trenches. Again, I'm kind of fading the wide receiver route. You're probably right, and it makes a lot more sense to go O-line. But I think they could talk themselves into a Peter Woods or a McDonald potentially, assuming that. But you're right. If they don't get the guy like the Penn State guy, the offensive guard, right? If he's gone for them, I could see them potentially saying, all right, let's get a Peter Woods or let's get a McDonald or something like that. So that's the dart throw there. Now, a couple other ones to round this out. Seattle first pick, running back at plus 350. I think everyone's forgetting that, no K9 there. And Jack Charbonnet tore his ACL in January.
Right.
There is just as good of a chance that he does not play at all next season as there is that he plays more than half the season.
Yep.
So they kind of need a running back, and they're obviously.
Where'd you find that?
DraftKings.
Definitely adding that.
Yeah, but so here's the thought process: you're already pick 32, so could they trade back, and try to get more capital? Absolutely, right?
Yeah, and that's I would, if that was a market for guessing who's trading. Seattle's the perfect, because I think they only have 4 picks the entire draft right now.
They lost a lot of dudes. They lost a lot of guys. Tariq Woolen went to the Eagles. They Boye Mafe. They lost a lot of guys. I mean, it happens. You're coming off the Super Bowl, right? But I think just have a massive void. George Halani was fun, I guess, but I don't think he can be your RB1 answer going into the season. So I think, a guy like Mike Washington, someone like that, they could potentially talk themselves into. And then the last two got to do with the tight ends, because I think this is a deep tight end class. You talked about Sadiq, okay, but Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt has a lot of talent. Oscar Delp from Georgia. There's some dudes in this tight end class.
Player.
So talking about some guys going late, give me Denver Broncos to have their first pick, which their first pick is in the second round, plus 425 for tight end. They've talked about how they kind of need a tight end. The Evan Ingram experience didn't really work out last year, although we thought it could work with that Joker. Really kind of a disappointment. So I think they could potentially, they love to use their tight ends. They're throwing out guys like Lucas Kroll and Troutman. How about you actually get somebody like, an Eli Stowers or an Oscar Delp who is the prospect that you wanted to be. And then finally, Houston Texans first pick at tight end at 25-1. That's the big dart throw to round it out. They don't have a ton of needs. They brought it, offensive line is the chalk for a good reason, but they are, again, late in the draft, in the first round. They could put another team that could trade back out of there, back into the second round, because they've kind of got, they have a lot of things filled, but the Dalton Schultz experiment hasn't really gone well. CJ Stroud, to tell me that you can get, I don't know if Sadiq's going to be able to fall that far, but I'll tell you if he's there, I think they definitely take him all the way at I think it's 24 that they're at. But guy like Eli Stowers, again, someone who can be a weapon for CJ Stroud, because it's a little bit of a kind of a, I don't know what your take is, but
28. They're 28.
Yeah, but I think they really need to kind of make a decision on CJ Stroud this year. Is he going to be the guy? I think he's done some things well, but it's been a little bit up and down. So I think they're going to try to give him a weapon there, and the tight end position might be a unique way at 25-1. I just really like the price there. All right, brother, that is it for NFL 2026 draft bets. Fun episode every single year. Like I said, historically, you're probably better off back in Professor Locke's there with some of these. He seems to be pretty plugged in. I don't know what sources he's got there, if this is a Diana Rossini situation. But, hey, you got anything to say to the people before we get the hell out of here?
No, if anybody is planning to go to Pittsburgh for the draft, good luck getting through the Fort Pitt Tunnel. I'm hearing anywhere from 400,000 to 500,000 people trying to go to the draft. This is supposed to be one of the biggest events ever held in Pittsburgh. North Shore is not that big, so have fun getting around all the one-ways and over all the bridges, but it'll be a great time either way.
Yeah, man, yes, great city of Pittsburgh. Should be a fun time. Excuse me. Thursday night, where it all goes down. Hopefully we'll be cashing some bets, enjoying. So good luck to your Steelers, and hopefully my Giants don't fuck this up. 2 picks in the top 10. Hopefully we get at least one good guy. Maybe we get a OBJ replacement. Maybe that's the hope, but we'll see. All right, you know what they say. A lock a day keeps the bookie away. And here are the Dino Docs. We've got your prescription. From Professor Locks and Doc here on DFSG Plus, we are out of here.